Last year, we insured both courthouses. I accused him of it. He swore to me. Right now. It's worse to have to trust people like
Yeah.
9/11. We'll make a
I want to thank every one of you for coming to the services tonight, for the people that came through the demonstration or through the display today. Important also to have spent that time going through and remembering. Our theme for this year was, I choose to not forget. It's a positive statement. It is an affirmative action that I will not forget. In thinking about it, there was a lot of people I contacted throughout the years we set up for this. I'll be there if my schedule says okay. I'll be there if I'm not too busy. I'm looking at you guys, and you guys are the most important of all of them because you chose to not forget. You guys are the core of keeping 9/11 in the hearts of this country, and I absolutely am appreciative. This program is supported by a tremendous, tremendous number of people. A lot of the people that support this are in the audience now, looking as if this just magically came together. I can't tell you the amount of help that I get from people throughout the year. I depend upon my wife profoundly, Roland and Mona. Junior is hiding, imagine. Mark Suba. At various times last night, there were people coming to help us set up. I'm sorry, I don't know their names, but they knew that we needed a hand, and they came together to make this happen. Those are the people that also keep 9/11 alive, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, may God thy gold refine, till all success is nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriot dreams that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
The official title, for 9/11 is actually Patriot Day. The name got changed. I want to say, again, it was in about 2003, that it was to recognize more than just the policemen and firemen. Being somebody that works public safety, I'm not distracting whatsoever from the sacrifices made. But in my 9/11 studies, I have found so many different walks of life that contributed to making New York City recover. When I was in New York City in 2006 for the 5-year anniversary, away from the footprints, away from where the towers had collapsed, there was a gentleman standing out on a corner, nobody around him, nobody paying any attention, and he's just standing there with a flag. And it looked to me like he was really crying, and he wasn't. But I went over and asked him if he was okay, and it led to a conversation. The gentleman said his name was Lou, and then he says, well, that's not my name, that's just what people call me. Okay, so I only know him as Lou. Where he was standing, he said, was actually where the bodies were carried. As the people were brought from the remains, they were taken down the street, across the street, and put on this grassy corner. And he said that through the years, New York City being his home, that people had forgot where an important element of that day had occurred. And he had made it his commitment that for the rest of his life he would stand on that corner where the bodies were actually laid before they went. I look at Lou, and I've looked at so many other people that, in my opinion, have been forgotten for what they did. They weren't the heroes that we remember the firemen to be, and I'm not distracting, the same with the policemen, but there were so many people that were suddenly jumping in and lending a hand. The crash in Shanksville, Flight 93, when it went down there, there's a cook in New York City that New York City was getting all the attention, and he's the head cook for the Olive Garden. And he packed up a crew and took them to Shanksville and spent a week cooking for the fire department in Shanksville the whole time. It was a pretty awesome story. The one that was telling me was the chief of Shanksville Fire Department, and like me, he didn't need the good Italian food, but he was very appreciative of having it. I want us to remember that there's a lot of people that did a lot of things, not just on 9/11 itself, that do things to make this country great. Sadly, there is a trend that has been occurring in public safety. We're recognizing it more with law enforcement, that there is a goal to injure them more. And sadly, the jobs come with it. The job in itself brings its own harm. In 1850, the New York City Fire Department published a manual for their bells. There's no telephones, so they have bells to call people. And this is how they made notifications from the downtown communications, is when the bell went and it rang a particular number of times, it meant, this is for you. It rang again, this is what you're to do. And this is how they communicated. It was pretty awesome. When they first started with the bells, the death of a fireman was communicated by 3 bells. It was 1, 1, 1. It didn't take long for them to figure out that's not the system that they wanted. Although the tradition still is 3 bells, it got everybody up on end. because you're always starting with one bell. So everybody was thinking some bad news is going to follow. Now they've got to calm down to listen to hear the rest of the bells and to hear the rest of the message. So right after the turn of the century into the 20th century, New York City set the standard, and they changed it from the 3 bells to 4 5s. In our recognition of the 3-bell ceremony, though we still know that, there's a lot of people that have given so very much to this county. We think of somebody giving their life for the community. They died in the line of duty. I never want us to forget that, that guy that goes out there and answers every ambulance call, and he does a whole career. He also gave his life. And sometimes we just don't say thank you enough on that. A lot of people have passed from our presence. This year has been very hard on law enforcement, and as we remember our people. Remember Mark Boone. It was just as tough on him. The 3 bells. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Bob Bertagna and his wife, Pam. Bob was fire chief for Thomas Creek Westside for a lot of years. Couldn't give it up. He now serves as a fireman, and Pam wouldn't let him go it alone, so Pam fights the fires right along with him. Thank you. A very unusual event for us tonight. Forgotten to history was a Lake County deputy sheriff. And part of our ceremony tonight is to remember him. I got a call now maybe 4 years ago, gentleman's name, Terry Baker. Terry Baker is retired chief deputy, Dallas County, Texas. Terry spends his time researching police officers that were killed early in the history of the country and were forgotten. And he thought that he might have a lead into a Lake County deputy that had died in the line of duty. Terry's research is phenomenal. He's been recognized by the director of the FBI. I can't remember the exact name of the award, but it is one of those that only one person gets a year, and Terry got it. He had found more than 300 police officers that had been forgotten, and he brought them back into history, and their agencies have brought them back into permanent memory. That is going to be our program for tonight, is presenting our deputy back to the community for a forever remembrance. Let me set the time for you. We all might be kind of geared by what television would say. 1881 in the United States was a time that we won't recognize the year, but we knew what was going on. There was the gunfight on Fremont Street down in Tombstone. But it, for romantic reasons, became the gunfight at the OK Corral. This is the one with Wyatt Earp, with Morgan, with Virgil. Billy Claiborne ran away from it so that he wouldn't be a part of it. He escaped unscathed. But in 1882, justice caught up with Billy. Elsewhere in that very same time frame, you're looking in Manhattan, New York. Thomas Edison threw a light switch and became the very first commercial lighting program in the United States. It was the dawn of electrification, something we're going to take for granted here in a few minutes. These lights are going to go on. When we're in the dark, we are not comfortable. And in 1882, they were learning what lights were all about, also learning what electricity was all about. In 1882, Franklin Roosevelt was born. So was Robert Goddard, who became the master of rockets. We'd call it rocket science now, but he actually started it. So this is what was going on in the world. If that's my phone, I'm sorry. This is the stage, this is the setting in which Samuel Lewis was a deputy sheriff in Lake County. Lake County then was much larger than what we know it to be now. Lake County right now is the 33rd largest county in the United States. We are still large as it is. Again, giving your life for the community. This is just exactly what they do. In 1882, there was a feud that was going between the Law family and I don't recall the other name. Call this the Hatfields and McCoys, if you will. This battle went back and forth. In that fight, a 15-year-old child was shot and killed. They had who they thought was the suspect, and they took him to trial. He went to Lakeview for trial. Now, Lakeview, for those that really don't recall, is Klamath Falls. That was a part of Lake County way back when. We were a part of Jackson County before then. We were large. We were huge. Some people were not satisfied with justice and decided that they were going to do it themselves. They weren't bringing him back to the county seat for trial. They would do it in Lakeview. And so they were being harbored in a hotel over in Lakeview. And something just straight out of the movies. This gun battle ensues because there's going to be a mob to lynch the gentleman that they said killed the child. Deputy Lewis took a position to defend the person he had in custody. He's standing at the top of the stairwell, and somebody down at the ground level just shot into the darkness. A couple shots were fired. The justice of the peace was hit. He was also defending. He survived. Deputy Lewis was hit in the leg, and he died within 5 minutes. We know that much of the history, and then after that, it kind of just disappears. And then Terry brings it back to our attention from what we had forgotten. And we have this opportunity tonight to forever remember Deputy Lewis for what he did, and to let the family know that it matters so much to us what your uncle, what your father, what your whoever so many generations ago did for us. He was a hero. It's my pleasure to present the tombstone to be unveiled now, back to the family, represented by Gerald Stewart.
Our grandfather was named after Samuel Lewis. And we knew a little bit about it, but our grandfather didn't talk a whole lot about it, but there were some memories. And as a family would gather on Father's Day, which we did and have every year since 1948, sometimes the memories would come back, and we'd talk a little bit about it, but then it would be forgotten. So I'm so thankful to Chuck, Terry Baker way back in Texas for making this day possible. If you look at the county records, you'll see in Book 1, there is a statement that says, we offer a reward of $1,000 for the person or persons that murdered Samuel J. Lewis. No one has ever collected that reward. When you look at the probate of that, here was a young man, and our great-grandfather was in charge of his probate, and the probate read he had accounts and accounts payable of $205, a mare worth $25, and a saddle worth $10. But he also would have had a life ahead of him, which was taken away. And I'd just like to read an excerpt from a newspaper article. We're so thankful that 3 years ago his name was inscribed in Salem on the honor wall, and back in Washington, D.C., also on the honor wall. So it's so fitting that finally his resting place will be marked with this headstone. Here was the excerpt. A group of masked men bent on revenge showed up at the hotel and demanded that laws be handed over to be lynched. Lewis refused. He shot. The masked men shot back, and Lewis was hit in the leg. The bullet severed his artery, killing him in 5 minutes. Judge Wright was shot in the arm, and the mob departed without laws. Movies are made of stuff like this. The lynchers then left, taking with them a wounded man who was supposed to be shot in the head. As a hat was picked up, Riddle was shot, and a piece of scalp with tuft of hair attached. The article reads, the shot that struck him is supposed to have been fired by Lewis, as a gun was found behind him with one barrel discharged, and he had no arms on it. So there's lots of history about what have happened. What I would really like is for my cousins to come forward. Myron, Stan, Kathy, Vic. Our mothers were all part of the Lewis Girl fans. Yep. 8 of them and 3 brothers from New Pine Creek. And I don't know how you want to do this with the unveiling, Chuck, but I'd like for all of us to be a part of that.
And thanks to Lake County. Yes. A picture, okay, Myron, we want you. 133 years later, but he was not forgotten.
found that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Tis grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home.
Bagpipes, and I apologize. Bagpipes are a tradition of law enforcement and of fire funerals. I've been to 4 line of duty funerals this year: Idaho, Nevada, California, and Oregon. And we just kind of move into them without any kind of an explanation, because in the discipline, you know what it is. I appreciate it. I'm looking for Stan. There you are. I didn't forget your question.
Thank you.
One of, and I don't remember your relationship. Deputy Lewis was your great uncle?
My grandfather's uncle.
His grandfather's uncle. Okay. Deputy Lewis was the 5th Oregon law enforcement killed in the line of duty. Actually, the one that is the oldest in Oregon, and I remember when he was found, was O. John Hart. And he had also been forgotten, I want to say Umatilla County, and a researcher discovered him. John Hart was killed just months after the end of the Civil War in 1865. So Deputy Lewis was the 5th one killed in the line of duty in Oregon.
That was Jackson County at the time.
On which one?
Lakeville was in Jackson.
No, Lakeville was in Lake County. It was still part of this. Jackson County, Klamath County, Lake County had all been part of one county previously. And then, for management purposes, started breaking up, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, I absolutely appreciate that you've attended tonight. Next year is going to be, the program is going to be unsung. And we're going to be taking I hope, a good look at these other people who have contributed to 9/11, who've contributed to the community, that they not be forgotten. In just a moment, we'll be closing, and again, I thank you very much for attending.
When I am down, and oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdens me, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. There is no life without its hunger. Each restless heart beats so imperfectly. But when you come, I am filled with wonder. Sometimes I think I've glimpsed eternity. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Oh, you raise me up to more than I can be.
Thank you.